Actually, let's start with People on the Stairs.
Let's go.
A film, I think People on the Stairs would be even more potent in the current climate that we're in, with people stuck inside all the time. What were your thoughts when you first read the script, or when it was first approached to be in it?
Under the Stairs?
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of funny. I wasn't really a horror buff. I always enjoyed horror all the time. I remember going to see Friday the 13th and going to see Halloween and things like that, and always had fun with them, with my friends and things. So I didn't read the script. I just read the sides for Roach. Well, no, you know what? Yeah, they read the sides for Roach, and they explained who he was. And then I went in, and then I read the script. I was obviously just so excited to get a lead in a movie role. It was the job that got me. I was so, I had a waiting job, and it whittled down smaller and smaller until I got very few shifts, and this was the job that got me out of it. And I was kind of excited to go on a movie set. I know this sounds really weird and not overly egotistical or anything, but I was kind of glad I didn't have lines, so I could just focus on the acting and who he was and the fun of it and things like that. It was almost like a freedom to just really explore. But people told me later, it's harder that you didn't talk than you did. So
I think it almost has a kind of a silent movie expressionistic kind of thing going on, which I thought would be tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just dug into it. My acting coach, when I auditioned, his name was, he had me go into a kind of like childlike state, and kind of just own childhood. Because a lot of people think I was 15. I was playing a 15-year-old, and I was 27 when I played. Yeah, no one would think I was like almost 30 when I played Roach. So I was kind of blessed with looking young, you know what I mean? So
do you think the satire though, and the horror, like, do you think at the time it was kind of lost on people, and it kind of grew as the years went by?
It's such a weird movie, There's like Three Stooges type of comedy in it. And then really weird, the daddy kind of hitting on the little girl, which is super creepy. Then cannibalism. Then, I was kind of a fun, red herring that you think is someone creepy. And then, and then it's super sweet. My character ended up being really sweet. I mean, I always, people say when I do conventions, they come up and they'll say, it's the funniest thing they've ever seen. Then they're like,
yeah.
Then other people come up and go, it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And some people just come up and go, man, I don't know what to call this. I kind of settled on twisted. But long story short, I think, it got mixed reviews. I mean, it's not great on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not horrible. It's not like one of 20% or 30%. I think it's like 60 something, like right below a fresh tomato. But yes, I think the cultness came afterwards for a while, and but it's not that weird. Freddy's funny too, Freddy Krueger's funny.
Yeah, and I think it was something, it reminds you of something like The Burbs, that kind of tone as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to ask you though, because when I was reading up on you, I noticed an interesting thing, that in the Universal Studios Florida thing, the People in the Stairs is also tied into the Twister ride. And I was thinking, is this like a Sean Whalen cinematic universe? Because
wait, what are you talking about? There's how are they tied together?
Basically, there's a moment in the Twister ride where there's a drive-in cinema, and they show People Under the Stairs as part of that package. And I was like, oh, it's like a Sean Whalen shared universe, is what I read about it. So I haven't seen it, but I was reading about it. So
because in the movie they showed in Twister the movie, they showed The Shining.
Yeah.
But
but I wonder, was that a nod? Do you think that's a nod to you? Like,
I mean, probably not. It's probably just because they own both.
Actually, how was Twister, the making of it? Because I wanted to ask, in that, playing a film that's so dominated by visual effects as well, was that sort of a challenge to kind of combine those?
Well, Alan Ruck, who's one of our, greatest American character actors out there. He's now on Succession, and from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he was in the car, and I was really into my acting roles and wanted to do really well. So when I got the part, there was tiny, we had just tiny lines. We drove around and you're looking around going, turn, go, come on, let's go, very quick stuff, right? I sat in the car and I'd written, I said, hey, Alan, how about this and that? And how about we're friends this way? Or what are you thinking for our characters? And he said, how about Sean in a truck? Kind of, oh, that's a little better. And he said, dude, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I said, but this is about the tornadoes. We're the Goonies watching the tornadoes. And I thought, wow, okay. I understood what he meant. And I thought, well, I'm just going to really dig into my character. You know what I mean? And to try to figure out, I decided I was married young and things like that. And I made some choices for my character that at the end of the day, you're right. You're looking, I mean, the big acquisition was that they had the guys from ILM that had just done the Jurassic Park dinosaurs to do the tornadoes. So it really wasn't about us, but Spielberg really liked the milk commercial that I was in, the Got Milk commercial. And that was at a phase where he was picking young actors from independent movies. That's where Philip Seymour Hoffman, a New York actor, and Jeremy Davies from Spanking the Monkey, and a bunch of different, kind of independent film type actors came from. Todd Field, and he liked doing that back in that time, picking up young actors from independent stuff. That's why he put Adam Driver in Lincoln. You know what I mean? When he put a small part from Girls, So, but that was really cool. But yeah, it was mostly about the driving. I mean, when I'm on screen, I'm on there probably for 10 seconds at a time because it's on. But it was long and it was major, and it really, really gave a boost to your career that you knew you were going to be in the director of Speed and Spielberg's, next movie. So,
yeah. I do think, though, you said about fleshing out your character. I think in the small moments you have, the camaraderie feels kind of lived in. Like you get the sense that they are a gang. Like it's not just characters bumping up against each other.
And that's because we lived together for 6 months. And we hung out together for 6 months, and it was a long shoot. So, we did have a camaraderie. We had a really, really good time together.
You mentioned the Got Milk Michael Bay commercial you did, and like that's become a very iconic commercial. Even like it wasn't even shown here, but we're aware of it on this side of the world. Not sort of like obviously through the internet as well. But did you have any idea when you were doing it how big it was going to become? Like,
no, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. It was just, I was going through a ton of commercials at that time. That's what I was doing. Most young comedic actors, all my friends, they came from Groundlings or some other school, and we all started in commercials. That's how we all got our SAG cards really easily. So, you'd be booked in a commercial, they'd give you your SAG card. So I was doing commercials for years, and I had success with Little Caesar Pizza commercials. And, it was really just something I did, and this was just another one of them, But and I thought a friend of mine was going to get it. He had worked with Michael Bay before. He really liked them, but they liked the way that I got sad at the end as opposed to getting angry at the end like all the other guys did. So
And
They
a forlorn quality.
yeah, I get that. And so they thought they had a beginning, middle, and an end. And or people just started screaming and yelling and kind of up the franticness, but that doesn't really take them anywhere. So I improvised that, and that's how I got the gig. And in a week later, it won the Clio Award. I shot it on a Thursday, and the following Monday, a week for like 10 days later, it won the Clio Award. They put it together.
I actually didn't realize it was that immediate.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I couldn't walk the streets. It was all over because it was only in California. It was all over California. And it was, there were people like, oh, did you get rich? And I was like, no, it was a state commercial, and I made like $400 a quarter, after taxes. So I was making $125 a month, and it was all over TV day and night. So, and that's why Spielberg put me in it, because a friend of mine in my acting class said, I work at Amblin, your life is going to change. And I said, why? And he said, Steven Spielberg likes your milk commercial. And that means something. So then a year later, a couple of years later, then Twister came, So.
Do you think your sort of your grounding in sort of doing commercials though is what sort of led to that sort of the reputation that your website talks about, being that guy that people know, everyone knows you?
I was the milk guy forever. I was the milk guy, and that was one of my goals, I didn't want to be the milk guy anymore. I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be a character actor. Like, I've seen you in that stuff. So I really, really was glad when I, did enough work that people did not continue to think of me as the milk guy, Yeah. That was a personal goal. We all have like personal goals as actors. It's like, oh, I don't want to be that guy anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want people to stop me in the street and go, how do I know you? Or what have I seen you in? Or not just the milk guy. But the success of that commercial started my theatrical career, or boosted it for sure. Because horror movies were just dismissed, They were just, they just did not have the power. If People on the Stairs came out and I played a character like Roach, now I would be famous, big famous. I did People on the Stairs. It was a really good calling card, and it showed that I had experience, but it didn't skyrocket me to fame in any way, because horror movies were. But that commercial launched me in the theatrical, but it also killed my commercial career. No one would hire me anymore. Right. Well, because you don't want to, let's say I'm driving a truck in your commercial. They don't want to go, look, the milk guy's in a truck. Yeah. You don't want them to have a mixed message. You want to think about your truck. They don't want to think about the milk guy in a truck. You know what I mean?
It's synonymous with milk, essentially.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. The Can You Hear Me Now guy and Flo and all these people, they did hundreds of commercials and made millions of dollars. I did one, and then it did get some play later. It did get, more money and things like that when it went national for a year or so, but certainly not millions by any degree. And, like I said, I made a decent amount of money, but it shut me down, At least if you're going to get shut down and be the Can You Hear Me Now guy, make a lot of money, and, but that's why
it's interesting. Like, it could be both kind of held you back, but also was a stepping stone at the same time. Weird industry.
It'd be into theatrical, and a lot of commercial people who did make millions, like, the Can You Hear Me Now guy. I'm sure he's worked on some stuff, but certainly not, as known as the kind of things I got to do. So I was really lucky,
Yeah, well, you worked, obviously we talked about Wes Craven, but also Tim Burton. You were in Batman Returns as well.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was fantastic. It was a funny story. I was just literally getting to Maine with a family vacation, we just put our suitcases in, and my mom and stepfather were there. Me and my ex-wife at the time, we walked in and hugged them. I, got dressed into camp gear, like shorts and a t-shirt, and just went out and grabbed a beer, sat in the hammock, and my mom said, "Your agent called." And they said it was a Monday, and they said, "Tim Burton wants to see you Wednesday." So I had to literally just get up, get a flight, and go back, and it was fun. I met him in a room. He was sitting there, and I was supposed to try out for one of the creepy clown people who worked for Danny DeVito, and so I was saying these crazy lines, and I've never done this, and I just don't agree. I don't think it's a great idea or anything, but I walked really close to him. I was like, and I came up kind of right in his face. And you're not supposed to do that. And I don't think I'd ever do that again. But he was like, okay. But he was so chill. I mean, it was just an insane, huge, crazy set. If you look at that Gotham thing, it was that snowy Gotham. We shot that in the summertime. And it was so hot. And it was they literally refrigerated it. And you'd walk through like the plastic stuff that you walk in the walk-in refrigerator, and then you're in the cold. You went from 100 degrees in LA to 32 degrees inside. And but he's so just calm, really, really calm, and a really nice guy. The funniest story is he kept me longer because I was the paper boy. So I was kind of the voice of the city that would respond to what was going on, So I was like crazy penguin creature and stuff like that. So a way to see like how the normal people are perceiving things. And I shot in like a few days in August and September, and then I think one day in October. So they have to hold you for that whole time, and I'm getting weekly paychecks. And then they finally said, he said, and I want to keep you just in case we need you. So I was getting a paycheck from Warner Brothers for that movie from October, November, December, January, and the beginning of February. And then there was a wrap party in February. And I walked up into the wrap party, and Tim was welcoming everybody. And I said, "Hey, Tim, how you doing?" He's like, "Sean Whalen, the reason that Warner Brothers Accounting hates me."
That's nice. Yeah. It's also great.
Like, they paid me for nothing. They never brought me back. If they would have brought me back once, or he would have been fine. I was like, "Sorry, I never said anything." He's like, "Oh, it's my fault," but whatever. That was back in the day when they had deeper pockets. That's for sure.
As you said, though, not only was it like a giant set, it seemed like a big set for like the personalities involved, like Christopher Walken, Michelle Pfeiffer. Like these are big people, kind of. Yeah.
I really only worked with Alfred the butler, Michael DeGrasse, and then I was in the building when Christopher Walken was doing his speech in front of the whole town at Christmas time and stuff like that. But I never got to be around him that much. Christopher Walken at all. And Batman, I never was around. I never was around like Danny DeVito. But when I did Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Danny DeVito and I actually talked about that set, and he told a funny story that he was had the big suit on, and they said the mechanical penguins were on there, and then real penguins, and they said, "Oh, they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt you." And he said, "Okay, that's fine." And they all were pecking the shit out of him. So he was like, "Get these things off of me." So it's really funny.
Never work with children or homicidal animals, I guess.
Yeah.
You mentioned It's Always Sunny, so also as well, you've had a strong career on television, and I wanted to highlight your character in Lost, Neil Frogner. Okay. In that, what's interesting about that is that for a long time he was an unseen character, a la something like Maris or something, where we kept hearing about him before the character debuted. And how did you feel about joining that? And obviously, you said it kind of reunited you with Jeremy Davis as well.
Yeah, well, Jeremy and I were friends, so that was really fun. But these two writers that I did an ABC show in Canada, Life as We Know It, we became friends. They went on to create Once Upon a Time. And they had thought about me for this role, so they were laying down tracks for me. That's why they were putting them in the scripts and saying my name. I remember hearing it, but I didn't think much of it, and I was a huge fan of the show. But then at the end of season, I think I was on 4, I guess, the island disappears, and Jeremy's in the boat with a bunch of people, and I just saw that in May, and then a few weeks later, I got a call that said, "You're in the opening, episode of season 5." I was so excited, so bittersweet. I open up the script, I'm turning it, and I'm dead on page 4 with the flaming arrow, which was, so you're excited and you're bummed at the same time. You think you're going to actually be on it and be on there for a while. And then, my friend Danny Roebuck, Dr. Arst, at least he was in several episodes before he blew up, and he's a really good friend, and we're known as the 2 best deaths on Lost.
Well, I was gonna say it's a shame you weren't on, but you did get one of the more iconic deaths. All right, like it's a punchline. You're basically.
Yeah, it is. It's just such a bummer, but and you can't really complain. But the weirdest part is, I was such a huge fan of the show, and was so freaked out by the last episode. And next thing you know, 6 weeks later, I'm in that boat with Jeremy. So it felt like I was crawling through a television set. It was so surreal. That's the first time I've ever been a fan of the show and then been on it, and you go, this is really weird, because it was just a few weeks ago that I saw the shot of that boat, and then I'm in the boat. Really weird.
That's incredible. You also, when you did something involved with some of the multimedia aspect of it as well, the Lost Pieces kind of game.
They had the writer's strike.
Okay, yeah.
So they had to figure it out. So my audition with that Harley one, or that video, was kind of like an audition.
Okay. That's a nice way of putting that to use, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really lucky to be a part of the show, and people really loved that part, like Frogurt and stuff. But it was, and the cast was beyond. They were just so nice. It was fantastic.
But I had a sweet experience.
Yeah.
Actually, before I knew we were going to get a chance to interview you, I actually watched a film that you're in a few weeks ago, and it's there's a sadness to it now because someone involved with it has passed away. But Adam Scheislinger, who did the music for That Thing You Do, I was rewatching That Thing You Do, and I maintain that you might be the most important character in that film because you were the first Oneida fan. You get the ball rolling.
Well, all my roles are sometimes really short. They're always memorable and short, but they, it's always, I'm always hearing things like, why didn't Roach live? Why didn't Roach live and help them get out of the house? And then I was like, listen, Roach wasn't going to leave the house. There's no way. Like, he might have let them out, and then they, helped them further on in the plot inside that. But as soon as they got out, he wouldn't. I just don't think Roach would have left. But on that movie, they said, you should have followed them across country, and been at certain fairs and things like that. And then at the very end, they're like, instead of like the sweet ending that they had with the guy who was the front doorsman, such a nice, sweet kind ending. They could have had me pull up at the hotel and go, I made it to Hollywood. I'm now gonna follow these guys, and they're broken up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would have been nice, and it would have been a nice punchline as they're walking back into the hotel together. You arrive as their biggest fan.
Right? They never, I never pitched it, but I should have.
And then was that a good experience working on that film? Obviously, Tom Hanks. It's his only director. He directed that film. Yeah,
directed it. Well, I just told a story about it on TikTok, which was kind of funny. He was standing there when I'm yelling, and he goes, just do this kind of, just yell at him like, hey, play that thing you do. And I was looking at him, I'm shocked. He goes, what's the matter? And I go, that sounds like there's no crying in baseball. Like, I can't do that. That's your thing. Like, the way Tom Hanks yells, it's very specific. Yeah. And I was
you said League of Their Own, but it's also like Toy Story. You can hear it like
Toy Story or in Castaway when he's like, I make fire. that kind of thing. He's very specific. And I was literally like, I can't do that. And he looked down and he's like, no. And he goes, that's just the way I yell. You do your thing. And he laughed really hard at what I was doing. So
that was his. They said he wrote and directed it, but you yourself, obviously, you do writing as well. You had a successful short film, Turkey Cake, as well. And is directing something you enjoy?
Yeah, I do enjoy writing. I just finished up a play in Hollywood for 9 months that a friend of mine and I co-wrote. The late, great Sam Lloyd. I don't know if you know Sam from Scrubs. Did you ever watch Scrubs?
Yeah, Ted, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. He was a good friend of mine. And he and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. He and I wrote a script of President script together that got really far along at the studio system. We even got to go to the Jim Henson Company and pitch a movie to them. So yeah, I've written a lot, and I've just written a horror comedy that I was planning to shoot in September, and hopefully will soon. Maybe I can still shoot it in September. I'm not really sure. So.
Actually, as someone who sort of is fairly prolific and works like a steady clip, how have you found lockdown? The sort of like everything stopping like that.
Well, the main thing was, I have a sketch class, and we were about to put up our spring sketch show, so that was a bummer. So we kind of reconvened, and we have now gotten together to put up a web series, a comedy series. We can't really tell what it is, but it's based on a very popular TV genre reality show, and we're doing a comedy parody of it via Zoom and stuff. So we've been writing and getting that, and I'm going to star in it as the host. So it's going to be really fun. That's going to be we're going to start filming next week and then dropping the show, hopefully, depending on editing, like 2 or 3 weeks. So that's really fun. And then I've been really trying to up my social media game with TikTok, because it's just the only social media that I've had fun with, like a lot of fun, because it's all short films. It's all little skits and things like that, and trying to figure out how it goes. But I've never had a social media following grow this quick, this fast, and have so much fun. So, everybody, if you want to see my stuff, I talk about Roach and my career and acting a lot. It's at Sean Whalen Actor, on TikTok. That's my handle. Social media.
We'll have all those details in the link when we share this. I actually, TikTok is kind of a mystery to me. I've actually never investigated it.
It's interesting. The things that were fun about it, it's just normal people being fun. I remember seeing my daughter showing me Vine, and it's really neat how you go, wow, there's so many people that have a good sense of humor. A lot of people are creative and funny, really funny. And that's not that they're just beautiful and trying to grow followers or things like that, but there's really some talented people out there that you think, wow, they're really funny, and the way they express themselves is really funny.
Yeah, so, and also, as you say, like, it's a perfect platform for like a quick gag or a quick observation.
Yeah, and it's a bummer though, because now the stuff from Facebook, all the arguing and the political stuff that was on Facebook, it's slowly starting to seep in. But what's nice about that is you can just delete just say, I don't want to see those videos.
Yeah.
Political. That's why I didn't want to spend time on Facebook, because it was just getting too angry, and so many people are so frustrated. It's frustrating. Obviously, it's really frustrating, and there's no clear knowledge, and there's not like, okay, this, and this, and then everyone goes, I get it. There's all these weird questions and stuff like that, so it's frustrating. But growing my social media, doing this sketch show, I still work with a couple students via Zoom.
Yeah, you do online acting kind of
online, but then I have a podcast as well, Acting Class Weekly with Sean Whalen, that's been going really, really well. So that's been again, that we're doing all that from home, so none of that really stops. So I've just been kind of pivoting, and then I also do, for your fans, just to let you know, that I do every Friday, I do a thing called QuaranCon, and it's me in my home, and I am putting up my banner, and I'm laying out my photos, and I do a live on TikTok, just like I would on Instagram or anything like that. And I sell autographed photos.
Oh,
And
cool.
sell them for half off. I usually sell them at like, $30, $40 or $40 at conventions. And I do them live, so you can watch me sign it, on the live, and then I hold up a photo so you can see it.
Yeah, it's authentic, and obviously, yeah.
So people have been filming those and watching me sign them and stuff like that, and I mail them out to you. So, it helps me, obviously, because I have several conventions I can't go to. It helps them because they're half off. I still interact with people, but that's every Friday, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. United States Pacific time.
That's a really good way of keeping things kind of like a normal sort of rate. That's great. I wanted
Yeah.
to ask, actually, to go back to horror. Actually, I wanted to ask you, like, you said, when you did People on the Stairs, that you weren't exactly like the horror guy. But when did you realize, like, now you're in so much stuff. You're in like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Like, horror is something we know you for. When was the moment you realized this is a genre for me? This is what
I did. There were some, kind of sci-fi weird movies, things like that I did. I did a couple of lower budget, like Python. I did a thing called Deep Shock, and some people in the horror community knew me, but it really blew up. I mean, that I was a horror guy in the late 2000s because Facebook started. And when I got on Facebook, it was so fun. All my high school friends and people I hadn't seen and all this stuff. And then just tons and tons and tons and tons of friend requests. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. And a friend of mine in New York goes, dude, those are your fans. I go, what fan? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, I'm telling you, accept everyone and see. And I remember just sitting there one day going, accept, it just go, and then all of a sudden it just blew up. Roach, it's you. Do you want to come to this horror convention? Do you sell any autographed pictures? And I was like, I was blown out of the water. I had no idea there was such a love for that movie. And so that takes me and puts me in horror conventions, and I start to do horror conventions, and I start to meet other people and independent filmmakers, then I started to get into other horror movies, and I did a horror movie with Brandon Trost, who's a big DP. He's done many of Rob Zombie's films, and he put me in an independent movie with him and his brother Jason Trost, who wrote and directed the thing, and then they put it into independent film festivals and things like that. And he showed it to Rob Zombie because he was his DP, and he went, "Oh, I know that guy. That's Roach from People on the Stairs, and he's a cool guy." And next thing you know, he flew me out, and I was in Halloween 2, and then we remained friends. We emailed, chatted, all the time, and then he called me up and asked me to be in 3 from Hell. But because I was in the horror convention world and kind of starting to talk to people on Facebook, and so then you get people reach out to you and ask you to be in their movies. So, it just kind of opened up another window for me.
And like horror audiences are, even as fans go, they're extremely loyal and they're extremely
super loyal. I think they're kind of like anime fans, because it's so funny. Like, people bring me to Comic-Con or pop culture cons for Twister and things like that, and those people love to dress up and love to party, but they don't buy stuff and talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, the horror fans want to own stuff. And I found a guy in England who makes handcrafts an action figure of Roach. So, so first time. So I put it on TikTok, and I was like, "Hey, if you want one, let me know." And everyone thought I was giving them away. I was like, "No, it's costing me a lot of money just to get them to the States." So I literally handcrafts them. So, and then I was like, do I tell them that it was for purchase, or do I just let them think I'm the greatest guy in the world?
They'll be like, you go from that guy to that awesome guy.
An awesome guy, exactly. No, I mean it would be fun to actually get one for a fan or whatever, and do something. I always do contests anyway, but it's not so. And then when I got on TikTok, you experiment. Usually when you start on TikTok, for the few times you start experimenting what you want to do, it's like a network. You start doing stuff, and is it funny? Is it working? But in the comments, people go, "Are you Roach from People Under the Stairs? Are you Roach? Were you on this show? Were you on that show? Da 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 da. Are you Steve Buscemi's brother? Are you Bobby Brady? Were you in Fright Night? Like all this stuff." And then I just did a video answering all the questions, and then that blew up when once said People Under the Stairs. And so that's anytime I post anything People Under the Stairs or horror, it blows up. That and Disney Channel for some reason.
Yeah, but it's funny because I have seen you talk about the Steve Buscemi thing, and I never, until I saw you talk about it, I never put that together. Like I can kind of see why people, but it never jumped out at me. Like I don't think he looked that alike.
Well, we have both. Okay, so my theory is this: we both have thin heads. I have big eyes, and I have a big mouth. He's got bigger eyes and a big mouth. But if my eyes were bigger and my mouth was a little smaller, I'd look like him. And if his mouth was bigger and his eyes were smaller, he'd look like me. But I mean, I'd love to do something with him. I mean, in a million years, I would. People always say that, and I go. I mean, the problem was, and for me, he was a New York actor, and New York actors were very, respected. That was the thing. Now it's from England or Australia or whatever, but at the time, New York actors were so lauded, and I came from comedy sketch, from Groundlings, so. But I've been blessed, and I got to work with Ang Lee and Clint Eastwood and a bunch of people. So,
yeah. Actually, I have one more question to ask you because I'll never be forgiven if I don't. We have a guy who works with us in the films and the horror convention called Tommy Jackson, and he's a huge fan of Idle Hands. He was very excited when he heard I was going to be talking to you. So I'm going to ask on behalf of Tommy.
Yes.
Like Idle Hands is it's a strange, as you said, it's like a horror comedy as well. It's a strange fusion.
One of the best scripts I ever read. So funny.
Yeah. And was it a good experience to
It was. The director seemed a little overwhelmed. He was a very nice guy, but he seemed definitely a little overwhelmed. But it was fun. Again, I was reunited with Nick Sadler, who was also in Twister. And he was also in the short film I did, Turkey Cake. So Nick and I had a great time together. We were really fun. I also was friends with Seth Green. Him and my ex-wife had mutual friends. So we knew each other when we were just starting out, me and Seth Green. So that was, it was really, really fun. But, I wasn't there that much. If you think about it, they can film, I was at the house mostly, so they could film most of my stuff in a couple of days, Mm-hmm. So it's not like I was there a lot, if that makes sense.
I think, like People Under the Stairs, I think it was almost ahead of its time with its kind of genre splicing. I think it would do much better nowadays when people are more attuned to it.
Well, it was such a bummer. Wes was developing it into a sci-fi series.
Oh, yeah.
And passed, Yeah. Sucked. He was such a good guy, such a nice man. And
I read stuff where you said that he's even though he makes these very dark things, he was incredibly joyous and just.
Oh, him and Rob are the same, like the nicest, sweetest people in the world. I mean, they're both just the nicest guys, but they come up with crazy stuff. But Rob looks like a horror guy, does, his rock and roll. Wes looks like, the normal, sweet guy and stuff. So it was really funny to kind of move into the same kind of horror person with Rob after Wes, very sweet, but I would have been involved in the series. Of course, he wouldn't have me as Roach or anything like that, but he was going to put us in there. So it was definitely, that's a bummer. But yeah, he sold the rights to Freddie so he could keep him working,
Yeah.
And He had a fun, weird sense of humor. It's definitely, like I said, it's a very strange, twisted movie, but very cult. You know.
Yeah, well, it really resonates with people. I think if you like it, you really like it. There's no kind of half measures.
That's with most cult films that are like that. You know, I'm a huge fan of Sleepaway Camp, like the massive, and I've become friends with Felissa Rose Esposito, and like I love that movie and passionately. I've been watching it with my friends and families for years. It's so funny. It's like hilariously silly, and they're like innocent. They didn't know how silly it was, you know.
Yeah.
And then I've been friends with her ever since.
It's funny because even earlier when you a throwaway comment to Fright Night, and my sort of fanboy energy rose because I love Fright Night as well. So yeah, horror really brings people together, I think.
We both had spiked hair, and so people thought his name is Steven something. But he
played Evil Ed. Yeah.
Yeah, 976 Evil and Fright Night, and he and I both had spiked hair. We looked kind of like Roach looked kind of like he did in 976 Evil and Fright Night, you know. So they got us confused, and I get that sometimes a lot. Like, are you in 976 Evil? You know, but no, it's not me.
But also, people would obviously know you as well from Friends as well, because that's constantly in syndication.
Yeah, crazy. Like, I didn't get recognized from that for years. And then Netflix came along, and now I get recognized for it all the time. So it's crazy. And it's definitely crazy.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a million. And I'll get the information from you about stuff that you're working on, like the Zoom thing that you're putting out in a couple of weeks. And we'll put it in. Thank you so much.
No problem. And I just wanted to let you know that my family is supposed to be... You're in Cork, is that right?
Yeah, Cork, yeah.
My family, the O'Phalans, Ophelan, O'Phalans, are from County Cork.
Oh,
and
right.
They changed it to Phelan, then they changed it to Whalen, and then some people, when they got to America, flipped it and went Alen, and some didn't and went Whelan.
And
but it's all supposedly from County Cork. So when my girlfriend is Irish as well, and we were planning on coming soon-ish, but now everything's get pushed back. But
if things, when things settle, though, come and join us at Spookscreen. It'd be great to have.
My girlfriend would come with me. It would be a blast. It would be fantastic.
Cool. My best to your family, and I hope everyone's staying safe.
Thank you too. Have a good day. Keep me posted.